All right, what is going on, you guys? I'm Saul, your favorite Persian redneck, and behind me we have the largest flip I have ever done. It is a 50,000 square foot single family home out in the heart of Phoenix. Now, obviously, if you couldn't tell, I'm being sarcastic. Behind me is actually the smallest flip we've ever done. It's 826 square feet. You heard that right. It's less than 1,000 square feet, and it's a single family home. It is a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom property out in the heart of Phoenix that also happens to be one of the oldest homes I've ever dealt with because it was built in the 1930s. This house is older than Ferrari, the company. This house is older than me, my parents, probably my grandparents, and the majority of the people watching this video. And it also happens to be a nightmare flip. A lot of agents like to act like everything goes perfectly in the real estate industry, but in reality, it's a business. Just like any other business, you hit bumps in the road. And you know, I don't like to hide that stuff, so I'm going to talk about it, but let's go ahead and hop inside first because it is hot as hell today. All right, so guys, welcome to the inside of the Washington project that's closing later on this afternoon. I'm going to be honest, this is probably going to be one of the shortest tours of a property or a project that we've done, and the reason for that is, as I mentioned outside, we're only working with 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and 826 square feet. But there were a couple of really unique things that happened to this property while we were in escrow and a couple of unique things about this house. I've already mentioned the size, the amount of bedrooms, the amount of bathrooms, and the age of it. But the few things that I didn't mention when I was outside is one, this house doesn't necessarily have a central HVAC system. It actually is on mini splits. Apparently HVAC wasn't a big thing back in the day. I guess I'm really thankful for that because I don't know how someone would live in Arizona back then because they didn't have mini splits back then, or at least as far as I know they didn't. But the other thing that was really, really weird is this property, I'm going to let you take a guess as to how many times this was in escrow. Boom, 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 boom. Is that how the Jeopardy music goes? I don't know. But whatever you said, it was wrong. It was 3 times. We've been in escrow 3 times with this property. And we've fallen out twice. We're currently in the 3rd one. We're closing this afternoon. But I'm going to tell you why we fell out the first 2 times. The first time, we ended up working with a buyer. We took a lower offer, right? It wasn't the highest offer we received when we first went on the market. But the reason we took it, they had a really unique value proposition. It was that, one, they'll come almost to the full price of the highest offer. So they came in at $315. The highest was $320. The second was that they were using a hard money lender and it was going to be an investment property. So they were going to be able to close faster, there would be no appraisal, and they waived their inspection. And the third thing was that we were literally closing in 8 days. That was faster than any deal I've ever done in history. So it was super attractive. We went under contract. The lender ended up ghosting everyone. I think it was actually a scammer. But you know, for us it ended up working out because we got the earnest money in the deal. But sadly, to the demise of the buyer, they got cheated out of, their $5,000 because the lender screwed them. Which brings me to a really good point. Guys, make sure you vet the people you're doing business with because you don't want to get screwed by some Yahoo on the internet that's pretending like they're a lender, right? But then we go into contract the second time, right? The second time we went under contract, the buyer ended up getting fired from their job like 10 days before the close of escrow. We got a letter from their lender saying, hey man, we're really sorry about this. We know you've already fallen out of escrow once. Keep in mind, we've already finished the Binzer. Everything was kosher, right? But then they get fired. Like, what are the chances of that? What are the chances of getting an escrow to fall out twice on the same property in one of the hottest markets that Arizona has ever experienced? That's pretty much unheard of. But then, thankfully, we got under contract the 3rd time. Everything was kosher. Everything went perfectly. We're closing later this afternoon, and we have had no issues whatsoever, right? It's been a blessing. This agent has been awesome to work with. And I hope that the family, or I don't know if it's a family or a couple that's buying it, but I hope they enjoy it as much as the previous owners did. If you guys couldn't tell, we're in the kitchen. We kind of passed through the entryway with the fireplace, then we went through the living room, dining room area, and now we're in the kitchen. This property was actually a little bit unique in that it was more of a lipstick flip than anything. And I know you guys don't really see that often because the projects that I post, normally they're full tear outs. And the reason that this was essentially a lipstick flip was because of the neighborhood that we're in. I couldn't find a single other house within like a mile of this property that had been fully renovated and gutted out, like how I did the Royal Palm project or how the 63rd project that you're about to see in the next video came out. So what do? Well, since we knew we couldn't put, 50 to 60 grand into this property and make it absolutely gorgeous and do, you know, an HGTV style flip. What we ended up doing was focusing more on the affordable housing side and trying to keep the cost of this property down. So it was paint, baseboards, trim pieces, you know, doorknobs, doors, the really simple stuff. We did some new appliances, we did backsplash in the kitchen, new countertops, and we did new hardware. It was a very simple project, but the benefit of that was twofold. One, it was an extremely fast flip, and the second benefit was we were able to keep the cost of the property down. So we ended up listing it for $299, and because of what a good price this house was, we got so many showings. We got so much attention. We got a total of 75 showings in like the first week, which is why when you guys walked into the house, the floors are so dusty, because the sheer amount of people that walked through this property was absolutely insane. When we first put this property on the market, if you guys look at the photos on Zillow or on the MLS or even on my Instagram, you'll see that the floors were shiny and perfect because we put a new coating on them, or was it a stain? I don't remember, but we basically fixed them up and we made them look very, very pretty. That's gone now, so since we're closing, we got to sweep it really quickly or mop it down just so it looks better again. But now that we're kind of finished with the tour of the kitchen minus the little fridge area, I actually want to talk about the backyard for a second, so let's go ahead and hop back there. Oops, it's locked still. Okay, so backyard of the Washington flip. Honestly, if I'm going to be straight with you guys, there's not much back here. The only stuff we did to the backyard was, one, we put in a new hot water heater, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the backyard. We basically did some minor landscaping. We removed all of the weeds. Some of it's actually grown back now, but at the time of listing, it was all perfectly manicured. We had them pick up all the dog poop, pick up all the dog toys from the previous owner, and just basically make it so it's a clean slate. We actually considered adding a small accessory dwelling unit to the backyard and setting it up so you could have two separate units. It'd be ideal for an investor to basically have two separate Airbnbs or two separate rental properties. But you know, it just didn't seem like it was worth it, and we were working on a time crunch, so we decided against doing that. We also put up this small fence just so if you have someone with a dog or if you have, you know, bikes or stuff, you could just leave it in this corner. And before I actually hop around to show you guys the RV gate, I actually want to talk about the washer and dryer that are here. If you guys remember, one of the first videos I posted this year was the Las Sendas project. And I know I didn't show this in the video, but this is actually from the Las Sendas project. We took these from that property. They were beat up, they were old, they didn't fit that house because everything was new. And from our experience, buyers at that price point tend to bring their own washer and dryer anyways, so they don't want the used stuff. So we basically brought it from that house and we put it here. Because we figured this house is built in the 1930s. It doesn't have a normal laundry room like a lot of other properties do. Since it has to be outside, might as well give the new buyers something to actually use. So we put it out here, and interestingly enough, this is actually where the original washer and dryer were, but the previous seller took theirs. And it's something that I'd never seen before, because as I mentioned earlier, I've never done a flip this old, so I was not accustomed to seeing a laundry room setup that was outside. I feel like in Arizona, that's something that's very weird, but at the end of the day, it's just how it was built, and there wasn't much we could do about that without dealing with the city and basically putting on a huge addition. So let's go ahead and hop around the corner. We ended up refurbishing this. Ooh, damn, we shouldn't have put gravel here because it's hard to get out. But back there, we have all of the palms that fell off the palm tree in the front yard that I hid before we started the video. But the reason that I wanted to come over here is to show you guys the huge RV gate that we put in. We put in this small concrete pad, and we put in that RV gate just in case whoever the new buyer is decides they want to basically park their cars in here or bring their RV in. Again, not a huge thing, but I think it makes the house a little bit nicer, and I think it makes it stand out from a lot of the other properties here. Also, since we're on the side with all the electrical panels and all of that good stuff, you'll notice that this bad boy says Solar City. Why does this say Solar City? Well, I know you guys can't see this, but if you were magic and you could fly, you could probably hop up onto the roof and see the solar panels. The previous owner actually put in solar panels onto this property, and they were owned, so they're transferring over to the new buyer. But the one thing that's a little bit weird is that I generally don't recommend people to put solar panels on their home for investments. We didn't have to worry about that because, granted, they were already there. But the reason that we never do that on our flips is because they don't really necessarily add value to the property, and appraiser doesn't really care, and buyers, at least in my experience, really could give two shits. They don't care at all because it doesn't really affect them very much and they can't get their money out of it. But since it was already here and someone else paid for it, we didn't have to worry about it. We were able to just pass it on, and the new buyers essentially get a free solar system that was already installed and that they don't have to worry about. So it was, the best of both worlds. Let's go ahead and snake around. Let's head back inside because, again, there's not much back here besides a large lot that you can run around with. But if you notice, there's another large gate in the backyard, and that's because this property actually backs to an alleyway. That's where the trash cans and all the other good stuff is. But before we hop inside, the other thing is, one, the dog door. We left that. Why did we leave that? Well, because people like their dogs in Arizona, and it's kind of cool to have your dog go inside and outside. So if it's already there, we might as well leave it. And the other thing was the shed. We left the shed here from the previous owner because, frankly, I think it's always nice to have storage, especially when you're dealing with a property that's under 1,000 square feet. If you have bikes or you have just other junk in general that you need to store, that's what it's perfect for. But let's go ahead and hop into the bedrooms. All right, time for some bedroom action. Let's go ahead and hop into, I guess there's technically no master bedroom because both bedrooms are the same size and they're both connected to the same bathroom just because of how this house is set up. But welcome to the first bedroom. I'm gonna call it the master bedroom just because it's the first one we're walking into, and I normally do the master bedroom first. But this house is actually on mini splits. It doesn't have an HVAC system, or at least a traditional central HVAC system. And I guess that was just a normal thing back in the day. So the previous owners put in some Blue Ridge mini splits and a Nest system, which is actually super nice. It keeps the house very, very cool, even throughout the summer because it's like 100 degrees outside. And I'm standing under one of the vents because it's over there and it's blowing directly at me. And it feels fantastic if I'm being completely honest. But as you can tell, didn't do a whole lot. Painted, did a new ceiling fan. And then actually, this is a little bit unique. We're inside the bathroom, very cramped in my opinion, but we couldn't really do much about that because the house is, 826 square feet. It's not like we could blow the walls down because this house is made of brick. Anything, to knock that down would be a huge project. It would cost a lot of time, it would cost a lot of money, and we'd have to get the city involved. So with the bathroom, we pretty much just did a little bit of cleanup and put in a new faucet and a new shower head just to spruce it up a little bit, make it a little bit more enjoyable and more user-friendly. But last but not least, the second to last part of the house is the second bedroom. So as we mentioned before, we have the mini splits here, and the one thing that is very weird is the fact that we have this right here. We have this giant walkway, which, believe it or not, used to be a door. I know, crazy, right? It looks exactly like a door because that's what it was. And to be completely honest with you guys, I don't know why the previous owners boxed it in. I guess they just didn't like having the door here, but they boxed it in and they just put this pretty much wood to hold its place, which I think looks very, very wonky because you have the door trim around it still. And it's kind of an eyesore. You walk up to the house, you think that's the front door because it's directly in front of you, but it's actually not. And to be honest, I kind of get where they're coming from. They don't want people walking directly into the front bedroom, but I thought that it would have made more sense for them to seal it properly. But now we're back to where we started. And there's a couple of other things that I want to mention. One, as you guys saw when we walked in, they relocated the front door to basically the left side of the entrance. So now, instead of walking straight in, you walk up the stairs and you take a left and then you walk in. But there were two other things. One, first of all, we still have our security system, which I just remembered we have to take off and relocate to the next project. The other thing, which I don't understand at all, I've just noticed that our neighbors have a huge, giant, fake horse in their front yard, which I don't understand at all. That thing is literally the size of a car. But the third thing that I want to go over that's a little bit weird is the actual location of the property. So we actually need to hop outside to do that, so I'll see you guys there. So welcome back to the front yard. I know, crazy, right? We went from inside to outside to inside, or actually no, it was outside to inside to outside to inside, and then back to outside. But let's go ahead and hop down these stairs. If you'll notice, we added a couple creature comforts. We put this cute little swing on the front porch just so you can, relax when the weather's a little bit better. Not in May though, because it's May right now and it's like 100 degrees, so it would be absolutely hell to be outside. But the reason that I wanted to come out here is one, that right there, that absolute beast of a freeway or a highway, I forget what the difference is, but I honestly did not think we would be able to dispo this property so quickly just because of its location, right? A lot of the houses here are historic, so it has a couple of unique quirks. People love that, right? The millennials go for that all day long. But in my mind, right, I knew that listing this property, there was no way we were gonna get asking price, let alone going above the asking price, because we're pretty much 3 houses away from sitting directly on a major lane of traffic. But I was wrong, right? You can't be right about everything. We managed to get it under contract for $16,000 over what I initially listed it for. And keep in mind, I know a lot of agents say, oh, I got this property under contract or I sold this listing for over what I listed it for. And the way they do that is by basically underpricing it when they put it on the market. So if a house is worth 300 grand, they'll list it for 60 grand under that, so that when it closes at 300, they can go on social media and flex to everyone and be like, oh guys, I'm the best agent out there. I closed this thing for 60 grand above asking, when in reality, all they did was sell it for what its true value was, and they kind of misled people by saying it's worth less. But this is actually just straight up a kosher way of selling it for over the list price. We went on the market, we had tons of comps supporting that price point, and in fact, I thought I overpriced it initially because some of the feedback we got from the open house that we held was that, whoa, we're way overpriced because the house is too small, we can't ask that much money. But then lo and behold, we had like 10 offers come in and ended up working out very well. But with that being said, we've wrapped up the full tour of this mini home and I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. But before I do, I wanna give you guys a little bit of something to go home with. One, if you're ever driving around and you see a house that looks like a dump, like the video that I posted before this, the Anza flip, right? If you see a house that's beat out, has boarded up windows, is burned down, or they have all of the driveway covered in weeds, or the landscaping is way out of whack, or you see abandoned cars in the front yard, or just something that screams, hey, this house is a mess and someone could be in financial distress, take a photo of the property, send it to me, and send me the address as well. I'll go ahead and reach out to the owners, set up a meeting, and see if we can work out some sort of agreement to purchase the property from them. And if I do end up purchasing the property, I'll give you a really, really large finder's fee. We'll give you a fat check, right? We're talking 10 to 15 grand just for taking a photo of a property and sending it to me along with the email. That's literally probably one of the easiest ways you can make money because I'm not really asking you to do anything. And I know a lot of people wouldn't offer that much money, but I like to give incentives to people. So if you see anything on your morning walk or on a hike or you're going on a bike ride with your family, take a photo, send it to me. With that being said, I'm gonna sign off. Hit me up on Instagram.